kind of discuss first is I think Milan now should be set. You know, he should have a solution. So I think that part of the world should be okay. Let's see where we at on. I think we have just one last complex round of validations on the AI processing service side, and then everything should be okay from now onwards, right? So let's just take a look
Correct.
here. Let's see the state of the world. Let's see here. Okay, so let's do this. So this is the Entity Intelligence Project, and I think as far as the last time we've connected on this last week, we had a just looking at the commits here. Yeah, we basically did just a code drop, but then also we had the should throw validation exception on retrieve of table information, has invalid table names and all that. Fantastic. This is great. I love it. Okay, then the next step for us here would be basically to, you know, go one extra level deeper, right? I think that's the last one, right? So that's
Yeah.
basically us going and saying if the table information itself has columns. So inside the columns, we could write a test if the column is null, empty, or white space. I think that's one approach. I think we can also, wait a second, is that Greg? Hey,
Hey,
Greg.
that's me. Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I finally figured out how to use this stuff.
I mean, you're here, so that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Omar, this is Greg. You probably have
Hi,
seen
Greg. Yeah.
GL Hayes. That's Greg right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Nice to meet you here.
Hey, nice meeting you, Omar.
Greg is awesome. And here's Kailu. Hey, Kay, how are you?
Hey guys.
Hey. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, I was talking about the validations, right? We just have one extra layer deep to go into with the validation. So we get a list of table informations, and then we validate the list itself. We validated the entities inside that list. I trust that we also validated that when these columns are null or empty. I don't know.
Yeah, we did. We did,
We
I think.
did.
Yeah.
So the last thing really is to just basically go and say, I want that list to be basically the insides of this table column list needs to have the name and the type to be validated, right?
I took like a stab at it, but like I wrote it. I didn't like look at my writing. So we can, if you want, take a quick look at the test.
Let's do it. Is it pushed or do you want to share your screen?
I'll share my screen before I push it here.
Let's go for it. Okay.
Okay. So it gets, as we can expect, it gets a little bit more complicated and tricky,
Uh-huh.
I think, right? So let's start with the invalid table information columns.
Uh-huh.
Can you see my screen first? Oh
I
yeah,
can. I
I
can.
can.
Yes.
Yeah. So the columns, again, they're kind of theory data, starting with null being one of them,
Mm-hmm.
and all the permutations
Mm-hmm.
with empty, null, or kind of white spaces.
Yep.
And the trick here, which let's see if you agree.
Wait. Go back one. Go back just one. I think you were looking at table information. We're talking about
Oh,
table column.
actually, table information column. It's oh, sorry,
Mm,
here, this one. Yeah,
yep.
yeah. So there is
That right there is why we put an extra line. If you scroll down, let me just tell you something. This is actually good.
yeah,
See that extra line that we separate? We say
yeah,
always
yeah, yeah.
multi-line. So you see line 81? Go to line 81. We
81.
always
Yeah,
put one extra line for separation. That's why this
yeah.
happened, because your
Act-
method was, but it's okay. Go ahead. I'm
Yeah,
listening.
I put the null in the wrong place. So null is actually here.
Uh,
Okay, so a null column or a column with all the permutations of the name
right,
and the type
right.
here. So if I go to the test, let's see. Yeah. So where is okay? So the should throw validation exception on retrieve if table information has invalid columns. Okay.
That's right.
And the
So you need a
boilerplate.
perfect list with just bad information inside one of them or something like that.
Is
Yeah,
it?
go for it.
That's actually my question. Is it a perfect list, or actually, the way I started it is let's have a random number of table informations that have random number of bad columns in them.
I'm okay with that. Although that I am totally okay with that because you're basically validating that it doesn't just validate for one item, it validates across the entire list. I am
Yeah.
totally okay with that. Okay, let's keep going. I think so far so good. There's no problem
Yeah.
here. Mhm.
So this is okay. This is the table information with invalid columns, which initially random, right?
Uh-huh.
But so I picked random number of those.
Uh-huh.
Okay, which I call it random count of table informations with invalid columns, and I find those indices for those table informations,
Uh-huh.
and inside that, what I do is actually, because I want to randomize the indices for the columns,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I generate the random column count that should be invalid, then the indices is for the columns, and then inside of these columns, I just invalidate them by assigning them to the invalid column. Of course, I had to create an invalid table information column API processing exception to localize it here.
And that's fine. So you're basically you create these indices for random indices within that list, and for each and every one of these indices at the table information list level, you basically started to add in an entire list of invalid columns, right?
I don't add, the list is like the columns are already there. They are already created, right? With the random data that we generated
Right,
before.
right.
Um,
But for the ones that match the indices for these invalid lists
mhm.
of table information, you basically assign invalid columns to them,
Yes,
like invalid
yes.
list of columns, right?
Yeah,
The one thing I have here, you probably you might already know that where I'm gonna go with this is
yeah.
that we need to find a way to randomize the number of invalid table columns within the table information.
This is what I did here, no? Like I randomized them by, there are two layers of randomization here. One for the table informations,
Mhm.
and inside each one, and in the select delegate here, I
Uh-huh.
randomize the columns as well.
Yeah, but are the invalid columns randomized? What I mean is for the table information list items that match the index for an invalid table information that you're gonna put invalid table columns in it. Do you put the entire list that you receive? Of course you do, right? Look at the so look at where is so the table information that you modify. You basically assign. Oh, you're putting random indices for on the column level as well.
Yes, yes. I'm shuffling again here. Because like otherwise, yeah, we either go with like known indices, or
Mhm.
we follow the same complex logic
We,
that we followed before. And
we have to stay consistent, even if it's
yeah,
complex. So when we decide when we decide to simplify, like when you decide to simplify, you're either gonna have to pay for it now or pay for it later. So if you're gonna go with a particular pattern, then stay consistent to it.
yeah.
So
The only thing here, like when invalidate the column, or like yeah, invalidate this random column, I think here we need two uh, exceptions. I'd
why?
say, like sorry, one exception but two data points for the name and the type. It's confusing because the way I did it with the theory data is, I think let's check. Yeah, I didn't assign actual strings. So yeah, they're all bad here.
Yeah, they're all bad.
They're all bad. So I think we can just add data for the column name and the column type, like we did with the previous test.
Yes, I agree. But at some point in time, by the way, you can also like you can have a test that verifies that we validate across all table columns.
Mhm.
So for a list of table informations, we are validating across all, and then you can write a focus test on one table information in one list that has these permutations. You know what I'm trying to tell you? So we could break that into two different tests or three different tests where you're basically going and saying, okay, layer one, I'm validating that we verify table columns in general. Okay, and then we have another test that treats this as one list. It will be literally a carbon copy of the table information, valid table information test.
Mhm.
A carbon copy of that. The only difference is that the models are changing. That's it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
in this case, so in
Mhm.
this case that you have here, this is not too far off. This is here basically you saying for every table information list item, we're picking up the ones that have table information columns that are invalid.
Yes.
That's the only concern here. But there will be another test where we basically say, can you detect if some properties within the table column is invalid? That's
Hmm.
where it gets interesting. You see what I'm saying? So as far as I'm concerned, I think this is okay. As long as this invalid table information column AI processing exception is collecting across all indices. Well, my question for you here then, well, how do we know you're saying column at this particular index, right? That
Yeah.
index refers to what? It refers to the index of the item in the column, table information column
Correct.
list.
Correct.
We need to mention the parent, which is the table information.
Yeah. Some renaming here. Like this must be table index.
Yes.
Uh, and this is on the second one here.
That's a column index. That's right.
And we should say something like um,
I'm okay if you do like table index colon column index, something like that. What's a better way to represent this, Greg? Do you know? Like if I'm saying you have list of lists, you have a list of lists, and you want to know you want it to indicate or reference the item at the child list in the item at the parent list. Okay, Lou and Greg, what do you guys think? Is this a good way for us to say column at, because it's not intuitive. Like how do they know? Like the
should,
person that's gonna read
should
that
we
error.
say, yeah, like should we say actually table and we get the table name
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine.
off, like just how we index it in code, basically table off between square brackets. Um,
I like the table name, column name better. Absolutely. I'm with you 100%.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
like
do
table
too.
Go
table
ahead.
information with invalid columns of table index.
Well, you already have it. That's the table information, right? Why don't you just
Oh
say
yeah,
table?
yeah, correct.
What
Yeah.
what 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 were you saying, Greg?
No, I was thinking it's just going to be a number and a number, and it's going to be hard to ascertain which is which.
Exactly. Like how are they supposed to know what this is?
Yeah,
Um,
table 0
Maybe
at
something like
in.
that.
column 5. What is that? What does it
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Especially that they don't have access to this list because it's all internal. Like the external user that's going to be looking at these errors, they can't debug that list. It's all private models, right? So We have to tell them something a little bit more indicative than that, something that
But
they can work
yeah,
with.
but we can't tell them the column name because it can be missing here, right? So
That's right. That's true. So we have to tell them, so column at table, we have to still say something that's human readable, right? Um, what do we say?
maybe we can say table, then this has invalid column at index X.
Just be aware that this is your key. Your key is supposed to just refer to the
Yeah.
directly, like it doesn't say things. It just refers directly. So you could say, you could say table and then table name, right? And so this table and then table name, and then you're saying the column is required. You're basically saying there is a missing column or a column is null or whatever. I'm okay with that.
So table something, then do we still do index, put the column index?
Yeah, type in column and then the column index.
Oh, okay.
So is there a chance that table information name can be null?
Yeah, that's the test above it. That's the validation test above it. Like this is the second layer. The first layer validates just table information list. And if any of them have null, empty, or white space, or the table information itself is null, it breaks the circuit. So
Okay.
that's
Yep.
taken care of. Yeah.
Okay, so table name,
And
column
then column
5
at, yeah.
is invalid or just like this?
No, it's just
Or
the key. It's
yeah,
supposed to
yeah,
just
we just we put something here.
column is required. I'm good with that. And then after that, you're basically saying,
Do we need this now?
do we need this? I think this is duplicated.
I was just thinking like if we need a message for type and message for name, like we did with the table above. Like there should be two messages here. If the column is missing its type and its name.
Nah, we don't need that. Just tell the user, hey, we tried to pull that table and it's broken. You know,
Okay, that's good.
it has columns that are broken. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me just try to run it. Maybe I just need to build.
Yeah, this is wild. I like it. In all honesty, I need to think about a standard upgrade where if we are faced with nested models like these, because these are painful, like I'm just thinking about the next guy that's going to have to deal with something like this. Um, it's definitely painful, you know. Um, we need to find a rule that enforces operating on one single model, even if it has nested models. But I just don't know. I don't know how that is going to work yet. This is a good error, by the way, Omar. Kailu, do you think you can make that test pass? Do you know?
So there is a null because I have one of the nulls, and the
Yeah,
rest should be yeah, no exception was thrown. Okay.
that's right. And Ahmad says the series will be in a playlist. Yeah, it is already in a playlist. Let me find the playlist for you real quick. Just share it here in the chat. Just people have the opportunity to kind of catch up on these things. Here's the entity intelligence. It's about so Ahmed just heads up. It's about 24 as of this moment. It's about 24 um, streams. So it's quite a bit, but I promise you, you're gonna learn a lot from it. You're gonna learn even from our own confusion, like just us thinking out loud. That's really what I'm trying to capture here with this series. The product is gonna become a legacy at any point in time, but this moment here is really valuable. Okay, where's Kailu?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Kailu, where's Kailu? Kailu, do you wanna try to make that test pass?
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so just going back to what I was saying, sorry, just too many things I was clicking around. I kind of left you guys hanging for a second there, but the I need to figure out a way where no matter how complex the model is, um, downstream services are the ones responsible for validating these nested items within that list. How is that going to work? I don't know yet. But Greg, that's probably a standard upgrade coming our way. I need to simplify this. See, there's no way for us to catch things like these unless we work on projects like these. Running issues
Yep.
and the upgrade, you know? Okay, here it is. Well, let me ask you this then, Omar. For some of these will have a column, but they will have invalid properties within that column unless you're validating this test is mainly just targeting the non-existent columns.
This test is targeting like columns with bad data in them. Like all of them are bad data, if that's what you mean.
Oh,
Right?
they're all nulls like that. Okay. Okay.
Like or empty column, just
Or
empty.
empty. Yeah, no, I gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. So Kailu, this would be exactly the same like um this will be exactly the same like table information, I guess.
Yeah, I believe so. Like
We changed your code a little bit, but the idea is still there. The exact same idea for the validation.
Okay.
Yeah, so that first layer here is validating if the table information itself is good, the list is good, and then the items within that list, and then the items within the items. That's the other layer. Mhm.
I'm just thinking about this. Like sometimes I know maybe they're not like great modeling technique, but you need to have a property nested property of the same type on a model. Like it can actually go in a loop, right? Like if you have I don't know, a person as a class, but there is a person property on it, and
Mhm.
maybe that person also, and like if we get into this nested types,
Mhm.
how okay, what level we should stop on at, like when we are validating. I don't, yeah.
That's the thing. That's what I was just saying. Like if your processing service needs all of that data, and it does, because that's how it basically formulates the query that's going to go to AI, right? Like processing service is the one responsible for that. We could have a dead end service that basically says, your job is to just formulate the prompt for AI, right? But in this particular case here, what we're really talking about is either we need to come up with a standard upgrade where we basically say if you have nested models within the same model, whether it's a list or just a nested item, a nested entity, we need to be able to go and say an orchestration service validates at that level, a processing service will validate at the sub level, and then a foundation service will validate at the sub level, right? I just don't
Hmm.
know. I don't know what that would look like, right? But just like I said, like I was just saying, like every project, every single project that we started, especially on these live streams, contributed in one way or another to standard upgrade, and that's a much higher purpose than the project itself. But I need to think about it. You know, I'm not sure, Omar. Maybe I'm not sure yet. So that's for the table column. I think he's only validating for just the list on the columns, Kay. I don't know, I could be wrong. Is that right, Omar? You're only just validating at the column list level at
I
this
thought
point.
we did the list here, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. So he's digging one layer deeper. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the cases is a column can be null as well. Yeah. So
Gotcha. Well, then your test is talking only about the column. It's not talking about the properties within that column, right?
it is. No. What do you mean? Sorry.
Like the test that you wrote, if you go
Yeah.
back to the test, it's only targeting the column. Let's go back to the test, Kailu, real quick. If you look at this particular, let's see here. Where is it? Yeah, right there. So look at line 274, right? You're basically saying invalid table information column AI processing, and you're saying at this column, the column is required. But where would you say column name is required or column, um, I don't know, type is
Maybe
required?
we should just say column is invalid here. That's
You want
it.
to just say column is invalid? Let's start with that. We'll dig a little bit deeper into it. So just change it to invalid, Kailu. I'll get to that part. The exception itself is saying that, but let's just get there. I'll upgrade it a little bit. So the error then would be the table name, okay, and which is the table information dot table name, and then the column index from his test, basically.
So pretty much I need another select because you're digging within the.
But I think here we need to do
You
select many, right? Like not select, because we are flattening multiple lists into one.
But then how do you know the table information index? Does it keep that somewhere? It might. Don't get me wrong, it might.
Sure.
I just don't know, right? So Kailu, just to be aware, he's making the column. Can you, sorry, Kailu, go back to the member data real quick, to the method that has the invalid. Yeah, see, he's giving you a null table column. I don't think that case should be there, Omar. Do you know why? Because you already validated this case at another level.
We didn't for a single column. We did for the whole columns list. We said if the columns is not right.
That's right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's right too. Okay. I mean, if you reference the column and basically say column at this particular index, at least it's a bit more indicative than just saying table in, because if you have 20 tables, you have to go count through them. I've seen databases with like 180 tables in them, right? So I think that's okay. It's okay, Kailu, if you go back, sorry, go back to the validation routine there. You're basically saying these are table validations. And for every table information, which is sorry, table content. So for every table information, you're basically going and looking at the columns inside that table information. Yeah, you would need another select, and that other select will basically dig deeper into the column itself, into the list of columns, the list of columns.
I think we can separate it into another method, like validate columns
We'll make it pretty. Just
Yeah,
hang on.
yeah,
Just let him flow. Let him spit it out. He got it.
yeah, of course.
I agree. Like we can simplify it a little bit. I agree. Mhm. Okay. Okay, so you're selecting every column. Do you still have access to the table index though at this layer? I highly doubt it, but see what you can do. Like if you call this table index. Oh, it is. It is. Good. Good. So now the only thing is just to produce the message. And then you're gonna have to flatten that list at the very end. Basically, you're gonna basically go and say, this is one list of validations. This is wild. I love it.
I think this is the rabbit hole that going
Yep,
down the rabbit hole.
yep. And my name is Alice. You couldn't tell? Okay, let's see.
Okay, so that's
Yeah, so I think you will need an entirely new method for this validate for items. What's the type of table column validations right now? Is it a list of lists? What does it look like? It's just an enumerable of dynamic and string, right? Which is great. What's the error here? Do you need another closing? Yeah, perfect. This is perfect, by the way. I know it looks scary, but it's not. Instead of select on line 51, just call it select mini. Flatten that list.
On line 50, I think.
50. 50. Yes, I'm sorry. Yep, 50. Yes. So now the only thing left here is why does it not like
To array,
validate?
I guess.
Yeah, to array. Okay. Cool. Nope, it wants something else. What's if you hover, yeah, go back. If you hover over this guy, well, it's not gonna let you make it an array because you're still representing it as IEnumerable, right? So you still have to, yeah, pretty much something like this.
Do we need the third validate columns now? Because we are throwing a different exception now, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna need another engine. And this third engine is basically the validation engine. And that validation engine will throw the invalid table information column AI processing exception. This, just so you know, Omar, this is one of the most complex validations we've written in years and years,
I
which is
was
not,
actually going to say this is
it's not a good
one of the,
thing.
yeah,
It's
it's one of
it's
the
not a good
complex.
thing at all. I mean, I know some folks on Reddit, they say, be careful when you watch the streams that Hassan is putting out there because it's not kiddie programming. It's not like, hello world, oh look, we're so smart, we can do things. But I still like to stay at level 0, if you know what I mean. I still like to make sure that, whatever we're building is somewhat digestible, no matter what level you're at in your craft. So we're gonna have to simplify this. But also building libraries is wild. Like if you're building domain systems, it's the most boring thing ever. But if you're building libraries, it's a head scratcher. If you ever feel like you're empowered, take a look at something called internal mock. It's a library that we have that literally rewrites the code in real time to so it rewrites private methods inside a private class or an internal class to mock its behavior. I call it partial mocking. Nobody does that stuff, but we do because it's necessary. So what is this saying? It's basically what exception? Oh, so just so you know, you need a new validate for items, and it needs to have invalid. Yeah, exactly. So you could call it validate for column items. Yeah. I think that's all that it is. I think that's our passing right here.
We still need to catch it.
That's right. Good catch. Good catch. No pun intended. Invalid table information column AI process. Yeah, that's your guy. That's right. Wow. Yeah, we definitely need a standard upgrade. The most pressing issue that we're trying to resolve these days is, I think Christo, have talked to me a little bit about this, is the logging. I want logging to be really, 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 really simple. It just reads your exception and understands what happens. We're still growing in that area. Rollbacks, logging, rollbacks, security.
Retries.
What's that, Kay?
Retries.
Retries. Thank you. Yep. So logging, rollback, security, retries. I never said the standard was perfect. so we're gonna have to continue to evolve this thing, right? Okay, what's your error? What's it say? It's saying you received an invalid table information column, but in reality, that found the inner exception type to be. So I'm telling you, something up a level is not doing you a favor. What is doing that, and why it's doing that? So look, one of the table columns that are coming through to you is null, and that's why it's freaking out. Put a breakpoint on the randomly generated table information. I'll tell you what happens. So put a breakpoint on line 246. Is that the same test? I think it is the same test, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Run debug mode on this, and I'll tell you what happens. I think I know what the problem is. Okay, so if you hover over table information with invalid columns, of course, StreamYard is not going to let you see that. You're going to have to open up like either the entire desktop, or you can add a watch or something. Okay. Yeah, you're going to open up the entire desktop. Okay, cool. All right. So I'm telling you, it's probably, so yeah, I can see now. So do you see any columns there? So, okay, so this is a column. Keep going. This is a columns. Good. Great. Fantastic. Okay, what about the random table information, which is the one above it? Not the invalid, the random. Yeah, that one. Okay, that's good. Is that the one that we were just iterating on just a second ago?
I think so.
So
It's
there's one that's good and one that has bad data in it. What about that list of invalid columns that you're receiving? Can you go over it real quick? The list that's your input. Your input to that method.
So
No, no,
that's
no. No, no, no. Go all the way up. Your input to your test method. Yeah, this guy.
it's not a list. It's just one by one.
Right. It is one by one. You're not kidding. So something in here is putting the table column as null, and that's why this is freaking out.
Yeah, it's one of the values that's coming to this is null, right? Like
So,
from the theory data.
right. Sorry, I meant table columns.
Oh,
Yeah. Go to the business logic. Like keep jumping through these lines until you get to the actual execution of the validation. And let's see if we can catch it. So retrieve SQL query. All of these look okay, I think. 12, 17, 10, 18. Cool. And then if you go inside the validation, something in there that catching that when it shouldn't, or at least catching it at the wrong time. Yep. Yeah, this is so far so good. Let's just see where it errors out. So if you keep jumping through this, these are hybrid. So they're circuit breakers, but also um, it collects reports. So all of this is good. This is probably the one that bugs out. It doesn't. That's crazy. So what happens here?
Oh, we are not calling the new validate method. We're calling the other one. It should be
Which one?
validate for
Oh,
column items.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
What? What? Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, good
Good
catch.
catch. Good catch. Thanks. Still, but this is actually good. This is basically saying no exception was thrown at all.
Give me 1 sec.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll come past you as a WIP, okay?
Yeah, yeah. Push a draft and I'll take it. So put just the method name with WIP and I'll take it. Okay, I'll try my luck here. All right. All right, I'll take over from here. Okay, let me try. So I'll pull latest from here. See. Okay, and here's a bunch of tests. Let's run all of this. This one, though, it's basically saying no exception was thrown at all, which means that the validation rules are not enforced or something to that effect. Let's see here. Come on. I don't know. It's taking forever.
While it's running, can we take a look at the validate function or the validate method, like to see what we are validating against?
Good point. So this is, I don't know, did I get latest? Hold on.
Yeah, it's not latest, no.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
no.
That's
Now
latest now.
yeah.
Okay, so if you look at, I don't know, is this guy still running? Yeah, good. Okay, so in here, you're basically saying validate columns and you're doing all that jazz. That's great. But then here you're basically saying is invalid.
Oh, we're just checking for null here, right?
Yeah, see, that's the problem, right? Because the table column, it's a
That's
lot
why
more. It's
that's
a
why
lot
one
more.
yeah, one of the tests passed, which is the null test, right? 6 failed now in your case. I think yeah, we need a couple of more.
How did we do that before? We basically went and said name at. So this is, we collected a bunch of, okay, fine, let's do that. I mean, fine. So we could basically say, I wish there was a better way so I don't have to do multiple iterations like these, because this is not my favorite. But this is basically table column validations, and this is table column name validations. So that's us basically going and saying, if I were to put table column dot name like this, right? And does this invalid help me? It will say name is required. I think that's okay, right? And then you're also validating for in the column itself, you have a little bit more than that, right? So if you go to a table column, so I need one more for the data type. That's right. That's what it is. So this is the table column type. Yeah. Type. Okay.
I think in the POC we did long time ago, we did it kind of in a nicer format. When we separated in a separate function, we had a switch statement.
I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
I promise you, we're gonna have to clean it up. I promise you.
Okay.
So this is table column validation. Greg, you're upside down. What happened?
Hey, what's going on?
I don't know what happened. It's your camera is upside down. I don't know why. Okay, so let me concatenate on this and this table column, and then I need another layer of concatenation. AI picked it up real quick, and then table columns validations. Is there anything else that has that name? It shouldn't. Should be nothing else here. Let me copy that, put it in there. Now, why is this guy tripping here? Because
It exists on line 49.
49. Oh, that's right. Let's see. All table column validations. Right this way. That might be it. Let's run this and see what happens. Do I need to rebuild though? Hold on. So if none of these two layers of validations above doesn't come through, then that would be your third one. That would be the circuit breaker basically. And this doesn't even look like the one, well, let's just see. It should give me a list of failing tests like this one. So let's just see. I don't know why it takes so long to build and process. I promise you this machine should be able to do it. But let's just give it a second there. Right? And I'm assuming like just expectation wise, table validations, this one right here. Yeah, so it stopped right there. Let's see why this guy failed. So it says 7 failed. Let's see why 7 failed. It's basically saying, oh, you know why? Because if the column is null, if the column itself is null, and we try to access that column, it's gonna freak out. You know what I mean? I bet you, yeah. So I bet you that if I go into this validation here and basically just ignore the one that validates if the column is null, because you see we're saying it's null in here, but we're not breaking the circuit. We're continuing to try to validate on that very same column, which is null. Like we know it's already null, right? That's why it's failing. You know what I mean? So if I cancel this for a second, just one tiny second, and I basically go and say, take away all that, I'm not going to take it away forever. I'm just trying to prove a theory, right? So if I do that, I bet you if I run these tests, this guy is going to be happy. At least 6 out of the 7 tests will be happy, right? So let's see if that's actually true. Here we go.
Why it's not showing drop down here near the test for the 7 cases?
I don't know. It's the preview version of Visual Studio. I mean, it shows it in some, but not in this one. See, I bet you this one will fail, but it'll just fail one case, and the rest of the cases should go through, I think. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, so this is it. And how many do you have failing? No, it's still doing the same thing. Expected to find key, table, whatever, column 0 with values, column is invalid, but found name is required. Oh, that's just the test name is wrong. So if I go this, so this is table column. I think what we put in there, table column. Why does it say name is required, name is required? Column is invalid. So wait, it says I expected. Oh, is this because the invalid name and type? This is saying name is required, and this is saying column is required. But in your expectation, you said it will always say column is invalid, right?
Yes.
And also, strangely enough, why is this coming in as, you see how it's kind of bundling up two things, right? So it's basically, yeah, so this is name. I bet you the next test would say, I expected column is required. There should be at least one that says type is required or something like that. Well, it wouldn't because, because we really shouldn't have named something as generic as this as name. That's not a name, right? It's just value is required, no matter what this value is, right? It shouldn't really say, because you're already saying the column, this particular column has a problem, but then there's a value that's required within that column. Let me try it this way. Private static dynamic is valid column string column property, and then this is new, like this. Here's a condition. I'll just copy these. That. And then let's just say, if I say column is invalid like this, right? And I put in column property like that, and I put that in there, I bet you that will get your test going. So this here invalid column, and this is invalid column. Then let me do a quick test run. Let's do that. Let's see. Come on. I'm gonna end up writing command line just to run these tests. How slow this thing is. It's killing me. What's wrong with my memory? So okay, so this, is it still failing across? Okay, so now it's saying expected table column 7 with value column is invalid. See, now it's saying column is invalid, right? But it's coming in as this weird array. See, why is that? Why is that? Do we have like nesting that's happening somewhere that we're not aware of? Let's see.
Oh,
Mm.
like line 65, you are doing table column dot type, but in the table. Oh no, sorry, that's I misread
Mm-mm.
that.
Mm. It's getting a list of things when it shouldn't. It shouldn't be giving us this list of things. So if I were to run this like on debug mode, if I were to put this on debug mode like this, let's see what happens here. Okay, this is object reference issue. Yeah, we're aware of that. We're aware of
Yeah.
this problem. That's because of the null thing. Okay, so all of this we're aware of. It's gonna iterate as many tables as it can get. That's right. And then, come on. How many tables did we generate? Did we put like 20,000? Fine. F5. Man, how many tables do we have? Let's see. Well, it's tables multiplied by the number of columns, right? So every table has a bunch of columns, and for all of these columns, there is the silly. Okay. Yeah, this is airing out because of the null issue, which I understand, and this is probably not the best way to skip through that test. Hold on, I have a better way of doing this. Let me disable this condition temporarily. Let's see here. I'll disable this guy just for a second. And then I'm gonna go back onto this. I'm gonna run this world here. Let's see what happens. Okay. If I can prove this theory, that would help a lot.
Interesting. You're working faster than Visual Studio identifying, removing the errors from the code. Like the red squiggly lines.
Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, so this guy's failing here. Now, can it at least give me something useful at this level? Let's see here. So it's still saying column is invalid. Something is up with that. Something is up with this. It's because look, it's basically saying, here's my expectation. This is the key, right? So this is the key with values. This, I think the key is confirmed. The key is good, but the values is redundant. It's basically saying for the same key, I'm getting invalid twice. Column is invalid twice. You see what I'm saying? And I think I probably know why it's doing that. Because both the name and the type are invalid. So it will produce a list of all the problems that it's seeing with that particular index. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think?
Yeah, that's when I was like thinking if we can add data to the exception twice, one for column name, one for column type, maybe. But doesn't solve the message. Why it's weird though.
It doesn't, it produces, you know why this happens? It produces the same key twice. Like it tries to add data because we're not really saying, and this is a good thing because we're not really saying what's really wrong with the column itself. Here, this will make it pass, but this is absolutely wrong. I mean, it's not too wrong. We just know here. So if I run this, it'll take 3 hours to run. I don't know why. I need to fix my Visual Studio. If I run this, because you are already producing the exact same number of keys for both cases. So you're basically saying table columns. Look what happened. Do you know why it did that? Because we're producing the exact same number of keys with the exact same number of messages. But there's a solution for it. It's not like there's no solution for it. And that's what we should be trying to fix tomorrow. What do you think about that? Because we're at time, actually. So let me put this as POC and we'll get back to it. I hate the commented code. I really hate that, but it is a work in progress. So we'll get to that piece tomorrow. Cool? Good. Let's try tomorrow. Just the one thing, just before I wrap up, the one thing I wanted to press on is I think having the column being null is still valid, even though I kind of commented that part. But I think having that column is still very much so valid. We just need to, I think Omar, we're gonna have to say something a little bit more than just column is invalid. It's gonna have to say the name is invalid, the type is invalid, all that kind of stuff. And I think there's nothing wrong. We could do the one iteration. So let me just ask you this. What's wrong with doing that in here? So check this out. What's wrong with doing, really just going here and doing, let's see, validate table information. Instead of doing it just one time like this, we produce a couple. So you're really adding both rules in here. You know what I mean? So you're basically doing something like this. Somehow, something like this. And you're basically saying, here's a list for all the pieces that we care about for every table. And in here, I'm going to go and say type like that, or something like that. You know what I mean? Let's explore that option tomorrow and see what happens.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you all for joining in today.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Night.
Take care.